Okay, so since last time, just as a quick sort of side note before going to the main sort of issue, we are going to be, well, we are kind of in the process of moving, which is fun and crazy, so that'll be interesting. I think the next video will probably be from the new place, so yeah, new scenery for you. But moving swiftly on, so there is a big sort of question out there, particularly in the cisgendered, hetero, male kind of grouping, if you will, over why there needs to be a gay everything. It's you know, it's something that's seen in many comments on various sources, and you know, on like responses to articles and things like that, and obviously, you know, the term gay is generally used because that's the one that most people know, but really applies to the whole queer spectrum, you know, so the full LGBT group, as it were. So I thought I'd just kind of, you know, sort of delve into that a little more, because it is a weird question, and it's, I suppose, as much as anything, ignorance can be a big driving force behind these questions. So it's not necessarily that, you know, these people are just mean. Some are, but not everyone. But, you know, sometimes it is just they don't understand. And I mean, whether it's, you know, sort of like actual conventions, you know, of like sort of gaming or comics or anything like that, you know, to even, I suppose, pride and, you know, sort of university societies, as I say, is often questioned by, as I say, it's particularly the cis hetero male grouping. I'm not saying exclusively, just tends to be the more vocal, at least, element of that. So one of the biggest reasons for this, you know, for this whole like queer this, queer that, whatever it may be, is the fact that if you consider society as a whole is generally a safe space for cis hetero male, then it's massively safe. It's geared towards that particular identification. So they are at home, at peace, and generally able to just carry on with their lives. I mean, even if they fit into, say, another small group, you know, sort of like, say geeks, nerds, you know, anything like that, they're still relatively safe. However, even for, you know, cis hetero females, there's less of a safe space. You know, even that just slightly takes it down. You know, if you sort of look at, you know, rape culture and things like that, or at least, you know, the sort of excusive kind of things that are thrown out, that's from a very basically patriarchal view. So something needs to happen in a lot of these cases, and that is to provide these people who perhaps feel like they are not the target, or, you know, the sort of important one in the middle of society, you know, sort of giving them a safe space to just be themselves. Generally, that's all they want, and that's it. That's why all these groups exist. You know, as I say, you see like the sort of, you know, rape culture, and, you know, the as I say, the excusing of certain acts by, well, if she wasn't wearing that, you know, those kind of things. You know, it's those things immediately create a barrier to complete and utter safety in being who you are in that scenario as as just a woman going about her business. And so you get sort of women's groups starting of things, and that gives them a safe, expressive place. And then you take it into the queer, the sort of queer society, and the community there. And as I say, there are these versions, if you will, of you have sort of conventions. I know sort of Gamer X last year, and I believe there's one quite soon this year. Things like that for queer gaming. Because if you consider, but if you go out and watch, certain gameplay videos of, say, Call of Duty, and on all that kind of ilk, these classically male teen dominated shooters, things like that, then you will get casually thrown out homophobic slurs. And a lot of the time they actually go, oh, I don't mean it like that way, I don't mean you are actually homosexual. And it's like, so what you're saying is then, one of my terms of identification to you is an insult. So to me, whether you mean it actually genuinely or not, that is still an insult. And, there's a lot of this kind of like, well, that's part of life, but nothing has to be a part of life unless you want it to be. So those people are kind of saying, well, I want that to be part of life because it's too difficult for me to change my behaviour. You don't like it, you get out. And then complain when they do get out and sort of put their own sort of, as I say, safe space together. And it's just weird. I mean, it's like, you sort of also see it perhaps with mental illness and things like that as well. Sometimes there are support groups which people generally know about, but there's also kind of other groups which often come together with an actual mix of both socialisation and whatever the sort of overt purpose of the group is. So if it's like, say, a service users network, of some description, of mental health services, they'll be looking at ways to access that, ways of perhaps feeding back how to change it. But there's also that social element and going, these people accept me for who I am, with all my idiosyncrasies and all the parts that make up me. Like a new, different group of friends, if you will, who share some of your nature. So, yeah, as much as I dislike, here's a box, fit in it, there are benefits to having these boxes, because it means you can, until society wakes up and kind of goes, well, actually, we're all just one, so let's be nice to each other and think a little more about how our actions can impact other people. I'm not saying everyone has to, become like some kind of whimpering sycophant. I'm not at all saying that, because that's just 100% the wrong way. But it's just more kind of thinking, if I say, oh, that's gay, is someone being offended by that? Can I not just say, oh, that's crap? I don't think anyone will kind of go, but I identify as crap, because that's worrying and probably they need to, get some self-esteem. But, yeah, hopefully it's kind of making sense. Basically, until society moves forward, where we can all just be a lot more accepting and tolerant, really, of everyone. Then, as I say, people on the fringes of this patriarchal scheme need to just be able to come together in little groups, or huge groups, but just to feel safe. So it's not, haha, we've got our version of this. That's not what gay X, Y, or Z is. Or queer X, Y, or Z. That's not what it is. It's not like, haha, we've got ours. It's, right, that's somewhere that I can be me and feel safe and respected. Isn't that what we all want? So until next time, I'll continue with the moving. There's a suitcase there. It's been there for months, but now it might actually be used. But yeah, so take care.